Hi friends, welcome to BSK Works. Today we have with us Shivam Aher, who has recently made a short documentary on former commissioner of Nashik. Commissioner has recently completed Ironman triathlon, and he has filmed his journey into a short documentary, which is like I have seen it and it's very interesting. So before proceeding further, let's have a look at its trailer.
A year before he actually attempted it, it was playing on his mind.
And that time he was not sure that he would like to attempt an Ironman.
And ultimately, after finishing Deccan Cliffhanger, he decided that he would like to do something else.
आयर्नमॅन ट्रायथलॉन ही WTC म्हणजेच वर्ल्ड ट्रायथलॉन कॉर्पोरेशन यांनी आयोजित केलेली स्पर्धा असून जगभरात ही स्पर्धा एकदिवसीय खेळ स्पर्धा म्हणून अतिशय कठीण मानली जाते.
सदर स्पर्धेत 180 किलोमीटर सायकलिंग, 4 किलोमीटर स्विमिंग आणि 42 किलोमीटर रनिंग असे 3 टप्पे होते.
I knew it is going to be very tough for him because he is very busy in his profession.
Being the head of the department, he have to handle so many things, not just the office work, but even the social affairs.
People go by the stereotypes. They don't see that actual performance of an officer is much more than the restrictive working hours or only file work. It's more than that. That remains hidden because people are not a part of that journey. That's why.
ते पॉझिटिव्हिटी आहे आपल्या शहरामध्ये ते अजून आपण याला पुढे घेऊन गेले पाहिजे.
In fact, we discussed and I was just asking him how we will do it, how will he manage to practice. And he just set a deadline of 8 months. Within 8 months, he wanted to do Ironman.
So first of all, let's welcome Shivam Aher. Shivam, how did you how did this idea came to you to make a documentary on?
So being a filmmaker and being making films around sports and athletes, and I started my own journey in filmmaking by filming myself doing a sport.
Okay.
So I'm always on the lookout for like athletes who are doing incredible things. So every athlete, whenever he achieves something in any sport, it is an incredible story. And so when I heard the news that Commissioner Sir completed his Ironman successfully, and in his first attempt, I read the news and I was like, this is a very interesting story because he's a police commissioner first of all, then he's in the 50s and he is attempting such a task which requires a huge amount of endurance strength, muscular strength,
Exactly.
all kinds of it's a combination of all strengths. It's not like one particular. It's not just weightlifting. It is not just marathon running. It is a combination of everything. So that was very interesting, and I felt that to tell that story will give a good message to the community. That that age is not a number, or that being having a job and all that you cannot give as an excuse.
Get excuses,
So I thought that was an inspiring story that I thought I could tell because
And
I
it
was
is,
in that city, and luckily Tejas, who made the connection, he also had the same thought when he met Commissioner Sir.
He also had the thought of making a
a
documentary
film,
on-
and he said that let's make it with Shivam because he liked my work. From previously we were in connection, so he had seen my work. So he used to follow me and he used to like my stuff. So he recommended Sir that we can ask Shivam. So what happened was then we just met after Unravel Nashik launch, and he was the chief guest there. So
Commissioner Sir.
Sir.
Okay.
So Commissioner Sir said he gave his consent there in front of me that he's okay with me coming into his life and making a film on it.
Okay. So there you approached him to make a
there we
documentary.
actually came together in face to face and talked about it. And he said that let's meet up again because we need to discuss it in more detail. So then I made a presentation and I was like, before we start, I also need to know that I need to have a thought in my head.
How
what
to
is
do
this
that?
film about?
Yeah.
So once I have that core thought, then I can
Proceed
quickly
further.
take decisions
Yeah.
during the shoot that do I need this scene or not, do I need to shoot this or not, and so that just made it easier. So so the whole subtext of the film is basically the quote that comes at the start, which is motivation gets you going,
Yeah.
but only habit will get you
Get
there.
it further. Yeah.
So that basic quote was like the subtext of the film. Like I wanted to make sure that the film portrays that to its core.
Yeah.
But it shows, but it is not just about that quote. It is also a person who is trying to live that quote in
Yeah.
real life.
Who is
And
a-
it is not so easy in real life that you can just give a quote to someone and he'll
And-
get inspired
yeah,
and he'll do it. So there are ups and downs, and there are things, there are challenges. So I
Exactly.
needed to show all the different roles that he plays in his real life,
Okay.
and how he balances them and manages them and finds time for himself and his health and his personal goals and achieves them.
So when you read about him in newspaper, at that time he had completed all,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So how did you portray in the short film, in the short documentary which you see? There are shot where he is practicing and
Yeah.
getting training about
Yes,
all this.
so we had initially talked about that with sir, and I was like, I told him first only that ideally I should have been involved in this project
Okay.
when you started this journey.
Uh-huh.
But since that has not happened,
Not happened.
and since you have already finished it, the main the role of me was to give an idea, give an hint of how it could have been.
Yeah.
It was not the real things.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
to make
Okay.
him like he was again. We had made him do all the things that he had already
Again,
done, and that's we asked him to do them all over again just for the film.
Okay.
So there were times when he used to get little anxious that I am doing this
yeah,
all over
yeah.
again. So that's why I used to make sure that I get it in the first shot only.
Okay.
Like otherwise we used to not take too many takes. So either I get it in first shot, or we just move on to the next
So
shot.
you are saying that there was a chance of completing Ironman second time again.
Yeah, like 25% of it at least, and
Oh
it is
my
still
God.
too much, because in order to shoot the swimming sequence,
part, yeah.
and it is something that he really hates, getting into the water in
Okay.
early morning and cold
you
water.
made him do
So
that
and
also.
that was the only thing actually that he was like, I don't want to do again.
Okay.
But we asked him to do that again because that was an important point, because he was not a swimmer, a proper swimmer.
Okay, but triathlon needs to there's a
triathlon
criteria of
needs
swimming.
So he had to be coached properly to swim, and he initially was very afraid of swimming.
Okay.
So he that was the most challenging thing for him, because
Okay.
running and marathon was very he
Yeah,
was doing that
he was-
already.
already.
So he was quite good with that. He had already completed a long distance cycling event, which is
Just tell about Ironman. What is Ironman?
right. So exactly. So I knew that this will be the question, not only for this interview, but even while watching film. Not a lot of people are aware in India about these events.
Ironman, yeah.
Of course,
They only know Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is one Ironman
Yeah.
people know, and the other is Milind Soman.
Yeah.
He made that popular in India because he was, I think, one of the first few men who
completed
finished
Ironman.
Ironman.
Alright.
So that's why it is popular, but it is still not a mainstream event.
No.
So in order for that, not only to explain here, but in also the film, I had to make sure that the audience knows
Should know what is Ironman, what it
before
takes.
knowing that
Yeah.
this person is taking into
Before
that
getting
journey.
into the journey,
Yeah.
they should know what is
So
Ironman.
Ironman is basically a triathlon event. Okay, so the full Ironman that he did consists of 42 kilometer of running,
Okay.
180 kilometer of cycling, and 4 kilometers of swimming.
Okay.
And all of this has to be done one after the other in a sequence.
Okay.
And all of this has to be finished in 17 hours.
Okay.
Below 17 hours.
Okay.
So that is less than a day.
Oh,
and
shit.
that is more than your daytime. So little more than your daytime.
Mhm.
So each event has a cutoff time. It's not like you can take as much time for swimming or nothing. Every event has a cutoff time, and the overall event also has a cutoff time.
Mhm.
So there is no such thing as like you come first, second, third. Any person who completes the race in the given cutoff time by that event
okay.
organizer, you are a finisher and you
Okay.
are declared as an Ironman.
Ironman.
If
Alright.
you complete it in the fastest time, then you just set up the record for that particular event.
Okay. So there are records.
Yeah, you
Alright.
set up the record. If you are the first person to finish it in the lowest amount of time, below the cutoff time,
Okay.
then you have that record on your name basically.
Okay.
So that is how they measure it up.
Oh,
but
yeah.
overall, even to complete it in the cutoff time, just by barely even a minute or a second, is also an incredible thing. Like,
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
lot of people take a lot of attempts, but single sir completed it in just 8 months of training and in first attempt itself.
Oh shit.
So at that age, with the job, with the family, with the everything, with the lifestyle he has, and to incorporate this into it, and to achieve that in just 8 months, I think he has that character. Like, he has the
Okay.
character to, you know, get his goals completed
Yeah.
within time.
So-
And so not only this was important for general public, but this was also important for the department also, because
Okay, to get inspired, like
yeah, of course, like,
the
we need
field-
such officers,
Yeah,
because like, we don't see that quite often, and
Yeah.
we think police are lethargic or whatever.
That's a common stereotype which we know.
But this is completely opposite of that, and that's why this needs to be told and shared. Across.
Yeah.
So that was the main important thing. Like, we
So-
see Singam and all that, where they do artificial things, and it's still
Yeah.
people evoke that
This is a
emotion.
real life singer which
This-
we know.
yeah, exactly.
So what I want to ask is, like, when you were shooting, you were documenting him. He was a commissioner of Nashik at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
right?
that
So
time,
he was like busy whole day.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was your brief while you were like approaching him about this? What did you exactly like quote him? What did you say him?
I told him that same thing. I gave him that quote. I said everything is going to be inside this. We will be about this quote. And I told him two second things, that a lot of people know that you are an Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what was the exact formula that I made, but it was I think it was time plus effort
Okay.
equals to Iron Man. So a lot of people know that you became an Iron Man under
Okay.
this time period, but not a lot of people know what
Efforts.
effort went into it.
Okay.
So the effort part is the missing part that we are going to show.
Okay.
That is what I told him basically. That was the only presentation. There were only 2 slides or 3 slides.
Okay.
One slide was that quote, and the second slide was this formula.
And-
that a lot of people know that you became an Iron Man, and a lot of people know that you did it in this time. But a lot of people don't know the effort that went behind it. So that is what we want to share. So the other media will just share the news that, you know, Iron Man, Commissioner Sir Ravinder Singhal became an Iron Man.
Became an
But
Iron
what
Man.
is an Iron Man?
Effort,
How long it is? How to train for
So
it?
at that
and-
point only he said yes, I'm gonna do
yeah,
this.
yes. He was. He liked the quote. He was like, this was a very interesting quote, and he was feeling positive about it. So let's go ahead and plan the thing. So.
Great.
Planning was very flexible actually. This was not a paid assignment, and neither was this like I don't know, like a social cause. So what we did was that we made sure that we make this in our free time as much as possible.
As much as possible.
So we just made a group and we used to discuss when is the next dates, slot of dates where all 3 of us are available.
3 of us, like who-
Tejas was the coordinator, so he used to be
coordinate
also,
between
so
sir
with
and
him
you.
also,
Okay.
yeah. So he used to organize location or whatever, and so all that. And he gave a lot of back support, which was very helpful during the shooting. It made the process very easy. And the communication with sir was also handled by him, so that also made it more easy for me. So I focused on just the filmmaking aspects. He handled the communication and all that. So then what we did was the first thing we did was that we didn't even start with sir. We started with the people around him.
Okay.
So we started
Like his
interviewing
wife,
and
his daughter.
scheduling interviews with all the people that were a part of his journey. So the doctor, the coach, all his support circle, his family, everyone we interviewed, and we finished that first. So that gave me an actual idea of what exactly happened during those 8 months.
Okay.
Before that, I didn't had an idea. I only imagined what could have happened. But then I got an idea, the picture of the whole story. Then I knew which part to take from which person. And then I thought at that moment, should I interview sir now or not? Then before taking that decision, we had already, after the interviews with all the surrounding people, we had started shooting sir's regular office meetings or office work, go visits, some ceremonies that he had to attend and all that, to show what a commissioner has to go through in his day-to-day work life. So during that, I just noticed that sir is a very he's a very person that keeps to himself until and unless he has something very important to say. So if he says everything to the point. There is nothing that he never just blabbers.
He doesn't go round and round on this topic.
Yeah, exactly. So
on the point.
that is what I realized. And second, that he's a man of action. He believes in talking less and doing it actually. And this whole event was exactly what he did in this whole event, Iron Man, is exactly the
He showed what he does. He doesn't speak,
exactly.
which we can see in the
He never
short
announced
documentary.
that I'm doing Ironman or anything. He just finished it and he told himself that I want to do this, and he did it. So I wanted to make sure that that energy and that same spirit is also converted into the film. So that's why I decided to not interview sir at all and just show him doing things.
That is the
and
most
achieve-
beautiful part
yeah.
which we see.
So that was a very huge risk at that point. I was very anxious about taking that decision, because generally, like by the rules, you have to have the interview, you have to have his words, and you have to have something cheesy coming from him, to end the something or something. But I felt like, I don't know, but there are filmmakers like, let's say, Nagaraj Manjore. So the way he created that whole scene at the end with just the child walking out of
that was a scene.
with the steps of blood, and there was no dialogue, nothing. And just that scene. And that was more impactful. In fact, he removed the sound, he removed everything, and then just that scene. So I feel those, when you have so much of noise and story and everything, and
it distracts from the main
but when you
point.
end it with just a silence and just a moment, that is more real and more believable and more true here in this case, to his character and to his personality. So that is why I went with that decision for that particular part.
And your journey, like filming everything, how much time did you take?
So we started in October, around mid-October, and that is when the communication started. And we just started, we didn't see how much time this will take. We just kept making sure that we are doing one or the other thing that is required for the film. So the first thing we came up with the decision that let's take people's interview. So then immediately we started talking to each of those people. We took a list, we took contact numbers from sir, and we started calling each one of them, asked them for their schedule, time. We went to their place, we interviewed them. So like this we finished them in around 2-3 weeks. First 2-3 weeks. So some happened immediately in like 1 to 3 days. Some took time because they were out of station or busy. So then that happened, then that got finished. Then I asked sir when he's available. Then he said, I have this event coming up, I have this meeting coming up, you can come. So I just used to go to his office and he used to do his thing, and I used to just stay behind and record all that. There are very selected few shots that I needed him to be coordinated with. So those I made sure that I got, and I told him, I communicated that very properly with him, that let's say I want a shot of your car approaching the police station, because that happens very quickly otherwise, and I cannot be there and stand there for the whole day and wait for him to happen. I had to coordinate with his team and make sure that I get that shot. I get the shots of his meeting, I get the shots of him working in the office and all that. And there are things that just randomly were in his schedule that I just went with him and just shot them. Thought something interesting, like there was a scene where they were opening a green gym in one of the police stations. So the one of the police station had now become a park also, and in that they included a green gym.
So that was made up shot, like you said you do that.
No.
They were doing that.
So that ceremony I thought was important because it was incorporating gym in a police station, and I knew a lot of officers are going to be there and going to try fitness and all that. So I thought this is a good frame to capture, because sir is in the center and there are other officers and they are doing something physical. So that's why I was there. Now there are a lot of moments in documentary that you hope will happen, like you want to happen. Like for example, at that moment I wanted the officers to have like a pull-up challenge or a push-up challenge to happen, so I can capture that. But that didn't happen. Like I was just hoping from inside. Like the thing with films, documentaries and fiction is that only that you cannot control. You just can hope that.
But
this
then also
happens.
in documentary there are there are many things which we don't expect but happen.
Exactly.
So that is the beauty of documentary
that's true.
filmmaking, I suppose.
It's all about capturing the unexpected first and then making a story out of that. That is the...
So I think I have calculated, and it took around 3 to 4 months for you to.
Yes. So after that, sir used to be very rarely available. He has to travel to Bombay, other places for meetings with other senior officers and all that. So wherever we used to get small batches of time between that 3 months of period, we just shot with him.
So my question to you is, how did you keep yourself motivated and inspired to continue on a project for like 3 to 4 months?
So that never came as a question, because the moment I give my commitment, I follow it till the end, first of all. Second, if a commissioner is ready for it, if he's giving his time and if he's ready for me to come into his life and shoot, and he's giving that opportunity to me, then I definitely don't want to ruin it or like say I don't want to act less in terms of my
Less,
100%
okay, okay.
on it. So that was the thing, and I needed this film because I personally, so everyone in this, though didn't had any monetary gain, like I didn't had a monetary gain, everyone had something to gain from this film. Okay, so even sir wants to feel that what you call his accomplishment
Yeah.
is shared with the community, because no matter what, it is always nice to inspire people. It is
people.
always nice to motivate people in a good way, and I
Exactly.
think that should happen.
Yeah.
More than the bad, there should be more good in
Exactly.
the community. So that's why I feel for him it was there that his story was being told.
Yeah.
For me, it was that I am getting a chance to first time tell a story alongside my good cinematography and editing and whatever. So before this, I don't think so I've done a job or a film where all of the three things were integrated in a very balanced manner.
Okay.
A lot of people, if you see in my previous videos, they will just comment what a cinematography, what a editing, but there was never what a story or what a storytelling. So I wanted to hear that, and I wanted to make sure that I'm doing that through this film. So this was like an avenue for me to experiment, test, and do my own instinctual storytelling decisions on the film around with good cinematography and editing.
Okay, talking about storytelling, I have noticed one thing. In this short documentary, there's first time there's a blackout. Okay, so when I was thinking by my perspective, there was like before that blackout, there was the first act. There in the documentary I haven't seen before. Like it was like 3-act structure, and the first act was like there were introduction about everything, and then we enter into second act, and then the journey begins, and then there's another blackout, second time, and after that there's the third act. So that was like very.
So blackouts came where I didn't had a seamless transition to do, or whether it was necessary, where it was the topic was completely changing. So the first part was introduction. We are slowly introducing the character along with the other people sharing what he's about to do and how much time he has. Then we come to the event that they're talking about, Iron Man, that they are mentioning. Then we mention what is Iron Man, and then we come back to his again personal story where he's working. So when that transition comes, there is one more transition, but that happens very fluidly. So where that happens, where he is into different roles, and then he comes at home where he's meditating. So that is also a transition, that is also a break. But there I got a chance to do that break in a visually seamless manner. But before that I didn't have that chance. So I just had to like black out and then move on to the next act of the film.
During this process of filming, were there any points where you thought like, no, I cannot go further than this, or like challenges? In perspective of challenges, there were any points?
Yeah, I mean, it was getting a little anxious for everyone after like 3 months of time, and there were very few scenes left, and then we had to like wait for sir to get free and all our timings to match. So it was getting a little anxious, like there is always this time in every shoot that I've experienced, which is why I didn't really think on it too much. Generally, whenever you take up a project, and if it's a long one, then by the end of it, the general feeling of everyone is that way only. Everyone gets very anxious. So
when
to
is it gonna finish?
So that was, I knew that this is just the part of it. So
Just
I
a
told
process.
myself that it is okay. Like few scenes are left. Let's finish that and finish the then start the editing.
So
actually, what happened was since there were so many gaps between shoots, I used to take the footage and immediately cut the interviews and even put it on the editing in that break time. So if I was not shooting something else or working on something else, and if I had free time before the next schedule of this Iron Man film, so in that time I used to make sure that I'm also sorting out the footage, cutting the interviews.
So that way you were like,
all the material I used to shoot, I used to study it so that I used to plan the next according to what I've studied from. Like all that story that people told, the people around him told me, that I listened to again and again to understand, and then that whole instinctually that all that data helped me to take the next decision.
That helped you to motivate or to
Yeah,
plan out another
exactly.
like, further. What
Yeah,
to
that's
do.
the main thing actually. If once you have an idea in your head now, and then you want to execute that, then the motivation is higher than whatever efforts that are required for that to
Yeah,
happen, then you don't think about that.
Okay.
Because then you want that to happen, like whatever is in your head, that idea.
That just
then,
want to come out.
Come out. So
Okay.
that's why it is important that that flow needs to be there on that project. That the project is developing and you are going more in depth than you started from. And as that happens, as you're going in depth, it just becomes more interesting and more challenging for you to execute. And then that whole process is what really is, I
Necessary,
would say,
yeah.
something that filmmakers enjoy. That whole process of being creative on the set and making sure that the next decision is coming from inside of you, and there is already particular deep reason that you think that you need to do this or do that.
So today is a day where you are like interviewed. You are being interviewed by another people, by news reporters and all. So, but there was a day where you were like deciding whether to go into this field or not. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
From where you like decided to do filmmaking career, you decided to choose filmmaking over another.
Actually, I didn't decide, or took very long time to decide it. The initial idea was to just do it for like 6 months before I prepare for my entrance exam for NID, for getting into. That time I was, in terms of career and given choices, I was thinking about product design.
Okay.
And I had studied mechanical engineering diploma for that, like as a base.
Okay.
So I wanted to do post-graduation diploma in product design, and for that it needed diploma or 12 pass. So I went with diploma in mechanical engineering because mechanical and products had similarities.
Yeah.
So while I was completing mechanical engineering, there was a time where I used to anticipate when the exams will get over and when I'll start doing parkour.
Parkour. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I used to practice
okay.
parkour back then. So I used to wait for that time, and then my dad had got a handycam at home, like a small Sony handycam for family shoots and all that. So I used to borrow that, and I used to take that with me in my parkour training, and I used to shoot myself doing parkour. And then I used to bring that footage back home and I used to edit. And all this process.
And back then, which software did you use to edit?
Cyberlink Power Director.
Okay.
So back then it was, that whole process was so like when I look at it as a third person, me doing all those things, I used to be engrossed in it without anyone telling me to do it.
Yeah.
So when I saw in college that when professor is telling me to learn this and then that felt more I was more resistant to that, and I was easily learning filmmaking on my own, watching my own videos, figuring it out on my own, and I enjoyed that more. And even in college, making things with my own hands using the mechanical engineering knowledge was more interesting than just learning and so that made me realize about myself that I enjoy this more and I enjoy less of that. So that just made it clear that this is the direction that I should take. So just for experiment, I took that decision of making a film on Nashik. I borrowed a friend's camera. I started a company. We started making, first of all, I stopped parkour then, and I said that we'll make one last video. So we made one last video with a couple of friends who also had interest in filmmaking. And in that I was not the filmmaker, I was the character. And these guys were filming and all that. So that whole process again was very enjoyable with the whole crew, going to different spots, finding locations, doing parkour, then sitting on the edit with the team and doing that. That was like the first test of doing a proper production film. And then from that we started a company, Stone Eye Productions. So now I imagine that these couple of friends with me will come together and will form this, but then what happened was these guys needed to move on to their studies and their these things, so I ended up forming it solo. So some of them used to come and help me in between, but I was really hoping that that team could be could carry on and we should be making more content, but it didn't happen. But I didn't stop, and I said I want to experiment anyway. So I started solo. Then Rene was one of the initial persons that joined me for editing and additional camera work, and that way we just started working. So what happened was that I first borrowed a camera. I didn't have a proper camera with me. I had that home handycam, and after that I was like, I want to make a time lapse film. So I researched online and I saw that the Nikon cameras back then used to have a time lapse intervalometer inbuilt.
Okay, inbuilt.
So I came to know that one of my good friends from college, Ankush Zivute, he had a Nikon D5100.
Okay.
So I asked him, like, can I borrow that from him? So he said, yeah, take it. So for 1 week I took that camera, I went around Nashik, I placed the tripod on various locations, and I took time lapses of the city and made one video, and I posted that on YouTube on my new channel, like Stone Eye Production. And that video, during that time, I think Nashik was in a very early stages of becoming digital, like, or the community was very new to the YouTube and Facebook and that whole. So seeing a video of Nashik, and that too being shown in a very futuristic manner, that it is developing and it is growing and all that, that sentiment was what connected people with that video, and then people shared that video. So like random things started to happen. Like I was at College Road at some cafe, and a friend and his there was a friend of a friend who was on the side, and he was just like on his WhatsApp showing my friend that have you seen this video? And like and then like that moment I realized that okay, the video is taking momentum and everyone is sharing. And then a news paper also did an article on it. And a friend of mine who was also the manager at Sula, he also saw that, and he used to come with me for parkour and all that. So he gave me a reference to Sula team that why don't you hire this guy to make a video on the Sula New Year party first. And then when I made the New Year party video, they liked that and they gave me the Sula Fest.
So that was your first client? Your first client. Okay.
Yeah. So Sula was officially my first client who hired me for professional professional services, which required my filmmaking skills. So that is the moment when I realized that okay, if money can come from this also, then why not make it a career? And then I was like, so even though there was no company registered, no camera that I had of my own, I had already worked and I already had someone paying me for that work. So the only next step was to buy a camera. So I just asked my dad, I'm getting money from the client, so they need a good video, so I need a good camera, like a professional camera to shoot it. So I need to buy a camera. So then that is when I took an investment from my dad and bought a camera. And from there the professional work just started from there, one after the other.
Okay. From all thousands of names, why did you choose Stone Eye Production?
So the initial idea was that during that time, I think one of the YouTube channels that I admired was the Viral Fever. TVF. And they had the name the Viral Fever, which I felt, I mean the viral word was very popular, but I used to feel like viral is little negative. Like viral is something that is contagious. That is a foreign thing that no, not addictive. That is the thing. That it was not addictive. It was a disease that is caught on you. That is the actual thing. So I was like, that is not the case with videos. With the case with online videos is that you will get addicted to it. So I was like, addiction, then coming from that to finding words around that and to finding stoned, being stoned. So being stoned had a very peculiar thing about eyes, that your eyes are particular swollen, they are reddish and all that, and you're just stuck at one looking at one place. So that was actually the feeling that that shows that someone is watching and just watching and getting addicted to watching that stuff. So that's why I chose the word stoned eye, which was the representation and production. So like it's as if like we are trying to produce people who are going to watch content regularly and watch it with addiction.
That was the idea.
Yeah, that's why the word stoned eye production. Yeah.
So nowadays it's a challenge to to ask family members obviously to let their children to get into filmmaking.
Right.
So it's a big task to get permission from family. How was that for you?
Because that money came from the client before I had even asked an investment from my dad. That just made it easier. So, and my dad is kind of very supportive He believes in me and he thinks that he will take the right decision. And actually it is that moment where I started taking my own decisions, and from there on I never doubted about it. So the moment I took a decision that I'm buying a camera worth 2 lakh and I'm getting into filmmaking, then I said I'll never look back at any other option. Now I have to do this religiously and I have to focus my all energy into this. And that is what I did, and which is why I feel is one of the reasons why it has grown along the years. So that is what I felt, and from there onwards there was never a doubt in me. That is why that energy and that confidence was translated into family, and then family also gave that support, because they also felt that he's not someone who is going to take it lightly or something.
What is the definition of filmmaking for you?
For me, since I'm into documentary, I feel it is more like being the eyes and ears in a story, which is a real story, and just being the eyes and ears there to capture that so that you can take it to other people. So just being there present with your camera is like, recording your memory and recording what you are seeing, so that you can tell what had happened in front of you to other people. So that is how I see it, like just that much, just being there. It's like a portal. Camera is like the portal for so many people across the world to see something specific, what is happening in the world through that particular person and his skills, vision. So that is how I see
Very technical definition. Okay, for you, filmmaking is a destination or a journey?
Journey, of course.
Okay.
It is still a journey, like even though people consider me maybe established or whatever, like a filmmaker, since I've been doing since such a long period of time, I think a filmmaker's journey, or for that matter, so many people's journey in their career does not end until they end. So,
I think
and especially with art, everything, it is always progressing, and even with time things are changing, and then you have to adapt to those changes also. Technology, new forms of storytelling, new forms of filmmaking, and all that you have to just keep adapting. So
like you have done so much. So now what's next?
Next for me is to go from a short doc to actually this is a mini documentary. If it is just 10-12 minutes, then I have to target a 40-minute mini documentary or a short documentary. And then I want to go for a feature documentary. So my goal is to engage people in a 2-hour or 3-hour long movie in a theater, when the whole movie is non-fiction. It is a documentary. So I want to give.
That is something I think is missing in Indian cinema.
It is missing, and definitely it is missing. And actually, when I see fiction and non-fiction, there is a very less difference. Like, I don't enjoy the films that don't portray the characters which are not real. I don't like the superhero movies. I don't like the movies where the character is just not, so many bullets have been shot to him and neither one has hit to him, and that I don't like that. I like a character which is as, like, you should not even feel that he's an actor playing that character. You should feel that was a real person whose story is being told through this film. So even though it is not real, maybe created by some person, but the writing and the direction and the cinematography and everything should be such that it should look like a documentary. That is when I feel that a story has been told which is relatable and real.
Great.
So the same is, so I might tell a story that is that way. It is a fiction, but I want to make sure that it is told in a very realistic manner. So it should look like a documentary, and the same is with documentary. I want to tell a documentary, but I want to tell it in the way they tell a fiction story.
So basically you want to show realism in it. Like, people should see the soul of the story right away. And
all that through the experience of the character. The character should play that important role, and he should have that real characterism. So Wild Wild Country, showing how they created that show with just about Osho with so many people. Or there is a film that I really like from Indian scene. Actually, there is a film which is a documentary, feature-length documentary, which is very beautiful, which has been told in a most dramatic way, and that is An Insignificant Man. It is about Arvind Kejriwal, during his first elections of Delhi, and how he became the CM, and what all went before becoming CM in all his cabinet. So the crew followed him in every room, in every meeting, and in everything. And they showed a picture of him which the media never showed, because the media never captured that. The media only captured the press conferences and the outside world when he came outside his room.
And I think it's still available on
Yeah,
YouTube,
yeah. So I think that is the most successful feature-length real documentary.
Yeah, but still,
so
I
far.
think the effort which it has taken, like the filmmakers, they have done crowdfunding campaign.
I
guess.
mean, because India was not ready for that medium, and people were skeptical, and so they had to find the real niche audience that is ready to pay for it, for that experience. Otherwise, in mainstream, it won't succeed. But now, with the platforms that have come up, not only YouTube and not only but there are so many distributors now or OTT platforms that are ready to show all kinds of content. They are not specific to one. So then that whole field has opened up.
Yeah.
And I think Vice bought
Vice,
Vice
Yeah,
bought
Vice.
An Insignificant Man after release for distribution and all that. The same is with now Netflix, Amazon Prime,
every OTT
everyone,
platform.
every OTT platform is now ready to show something different.
Okay.
So that way there is more scope in documentaries, and in fact, one of the studies says that the most trending and the most upcoming genre in filmmaking is documentary.
All right.
It is growing rapidly. All others are falling. Or horror stories, action films are just dropping. Their view count is dropping. Their viewership is dropping. And there is only documentary. I think there is rom-com also, and few others that are gaining.
I think I should also plan to do.
Yes. Documentary is the next thing. And I feel it is a very interesting medium because it does not require you to have so many things. Like it is just following the real person and just finding a story.
You just need to have a camera and a
And if you want to actually become a filmmaker where you want to tell fiction films, for that also this knowledge helps a lot. To observe a person, his characters, a real person. Then not only that will help you to write better characters, but also to direct an actor to make sure that that actor is mimicking or representing someone who is like a true character.
Yeah, I think it's like a basic thing of filmmaking is to develop a story. And I think documentary filmmaking is if you document someone just randomly, and then we will take it to edit platform, and then we can see that and we can develop a story around it while editing. So I think documentary is very important if you want to learn how to develop a story from scratch.
That's true.
So what are your favorite top three films?
Okay.
It can be documentary or fiction, anything.
An Insignificant Man, for definitely, it has inspired me a lot to give conviction to this pursuit behind making documentary films. Then there are these cinematographically, I don't know what category it comes into. I think it is cinema verite. It is a form of filmmaking where the cinematographer tells the story. So the cinematographer only with visuals. There is nothing. There is no voiceover, nothing. There are just shots. And all these shots somehow are representing a bigger idea. And that's it. So that is one of the genres that I like. And a couple of the films in that genre are...
I think you have mentioned a couple of times Roma. You like Roma?
Roma is one because there the director became the cinematographer, and he also did the same thing. He captured the characters in the most real way. You never feel that there is
that
a
is a genre which you like.
Roma is definitely a good film, but it is not. As a cinematographer, it has had an impact on me. I understood for the first time what could be the role of a director if the cinematographer is just doing its basic job. So the director has to really make sure the characters are playing the role in a very true manner, that the audience does not even feel the camera is there, and the camera does not need to do fancy moves or anything. It just needs to be there to capture that emotion. That's it. So in the most simplest of cinematography, how you can tell a very impactful story is what Roma.
And it feels like a documentary made on a simple people,
Yeah.
And again, you have mentioned couple of times boyhood, I guess.
Boyhood only for that whole thing that they gave 14 years.
12 years, I
12
guess.
years or 14 years for
Yeah.
that to
Making a
actually
film.
shoot that boy go through that growth
Changes,
also and
yeah.
changes also. So that kind of conviction to have for a filmmaker to
Yeah.
have, like, to
12
dedicate,
hours.
like, you cannot see 14 after 14 years you'll see your film for the first time. That is incredible. Like, if they can have that, then obviously you can survive 3 months, 6 months schedule, or
Yeah.
1 year or whatever. So
But
yeah,
then
so
also
my
hats off to the producer who is putting all the money.
yeah. I mean, we don't know who is there at the back end. Sometimes most of these kind of stories get produced by the actual talents and the investors in it, like the director, the cinematographer,
or
and
the
the
actor.
actors.
Yeah.
So they only take up that risk with the director,
Mhm.
and they only self-produce it, because a money-oriented person will never invest in 14 years and wait for the returns after that.
Your favorite directors, top 3.
I don't have such actually. There is no list, because all filmmakers and everyone just in some way inspires me.
Yeah.
There is no one at very special
okay,
at my
okay.
heart or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, there's no one. Like, I think all filmmakers and all their work I enjoy, and I learn something from it,
Mhm.
and that's it. I just take until that. I don't want to worship anyone personally.
Okay. Mhm.
Like, no, neither do I want anyone to worship me, and neither I want to worship anyone.
Uh-huh.
So it's like that.
I think everyone has their own story to tell. Everyone are
Yeah,
going through
exactly.
their own
Everyone is equal.
processes.
The moment
Yeah.
you create this, that you admire, inspire, or get motivated by someone, you create that
Classes and,
gap
gap.
between each other. I think everyone, if someone is inspired by me, I just want him to see and make a film of his own. So that way I will know that I will be happy that that
He's doing something
he's
of-
doing
yeah.
something. So, and he's equally talented and incredible. It is just that might have started the journey earlier, and
Okay.
he's starting his own journey later.
Okay.
But during the same time span, both of them will achieve the same result, and same if they are
So-
all giving
okay.
their whole
Okay.
100%.
If they are doing with the same conviction as
Yeah.
you are.
And with the challenges that society presents to filmmakers or any creative
Uh-huh.
person, I just have sympathy to everyone. So that's why I don't really keep a ego or a competitive attitude with other filmmakers.
Okay.
I feel all of us are just of the same tribe, and we are doing the same things, and we are facing the same challenges. Then we are more closer together than and we are fighting the society rather than fighting each other.
Yeah.
So that is why it is important for the community of filmmakers
Get closer,
to be
not
to
keep
be close.
ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Nashik, specifically in India, I think this kind of attitude is much needed.
Yeah,
because
it's very less, and unfortunately in India,
and
everyone
industry
becomes
is,
very
like,
competitive.
much to grow.
Yeah, there is a lot of space for everyone, and there's no need for competition.
Exactly.
And when it comes to creativity, if you're doing a very like a mechanical filmmaking job, like say shooting a serial is a very mechanical job. The cameraman has standard stuff to do, the lightman has standard stuff to do.
8 to 9 wala job, that's it.
It's a job. So
Yeah.
there you can have competition, there you can have these egos. But when it comes to being very creative and telling your own story, then you cannot have competition, because everyone has their own way of telling a story, and everyone is unique, and some people will like his, some people will like his, everyone will have their audience. So there is no need to worry about sharing the audience or fighting for that audience.
There's space for everyone.
Yeah. And every day a person can watch one film.
Exactly.
So in a year people can watch 365 films.
Exactly.
And in like their lifetime of 60 years they can watch 365 into 60 that many amount of films. So that means there is a room for everyone. Everyone can have that one day of everyone's life,
Exactly.
and make sure that they are watching your film.
Finally, what are the advices you would want to give new filmmakers?
Just keep making films, like project to project, and make sure that you don't worry about the equipment. Focus on the storytelling first. So start with basic minimum that you require for telling a good story and making it a convincing one.
Okay.
And then just move on from there on with your equipment and other skills that you want to grow. Because from the outside world, filmmaking world seems very easy, interesting, fancy, but the actual work that goes into it is very different, and you sort of need that experience first in order to get an idea of how it's made. And that's it.
Okay, so thank you very
Yes.
much for your time.
Thanks
It
to
was
you.
pleasure talking to you.
This was the first time I'm getting interviewed for filmmaking on
Yeah,
camera,
okay.
and it is interesting to sit in front of the camera for the first time
Okay.
and getting interviewed rather than interviewing people. Yeah.
Thank to you.
Yes.
And it was really a filmmaking course for we guys. Thank you for throwing those knowledge bombs on us.
Yes.
And hopefully another time we'll meet. We will be making
Definitely.
your
Yeah.
feature documentary film, and I
Yeah.
will be interviewing
And
you.
hopefully we collaborate on.
Yeah,
some
we will
films.
be collaborating. We have projects planned
Yes.
together.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Okay,
Yes.
so guys, thank you. Make sure you check his channel. I'll put a link into the description. So yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you once
Yes.
again.